town. I'm the one you call when you need a turn up or down. I'm a tent rental man, I'm working all day, getting those stakes in the ground no matter what they say. From sunrise to the night, I make sure everything's right. Yeah, I'm a tent rental man, I'm working all day.
All right, we're back again with another episode of Under the Vinyl. As always, I got my co-host Kyle. Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Nate. Nice to see you. It's been a while.
I know, and we're in our natural habitat, it seems like.
I know. Finally, this week we get to record from our offices instead of on the road.
Yeah,
so
quality might be a little bit better. We might be feeling a little bit better. Everything's good. So how was your big project that you were working on?
it's down and back in the warehouse, so I feel much better. It got stressful towards the end, but we survived. Little rain showers day of the wedding that were not in the forecast, but we made it through.
As always, but it looked great. I saw tons of edits, and it looks wonderful. So you guys did a killer job on that one. Well done.
Thanks for the assist. We couldn't have done it without you guys, obviously, but
Hey, that's what friends are for. I'll just pat
exactly.
myself on the back. Oh, anyways, yeah, we're finishing up with some big projects. We got finishing up with the IndyCar race coming up next weekend, so we're getting that all dialed in, and got some other big ones coming through. As you know how September is, so
Yeah,
you're
but
right there.
hey, our guest today does some pretty big ones.
Yeah.
Compared to ours, ours are small compared to what he does.
We got big shoes to fill there, that's for sure. But our guest today is someone that some people know as hashtag Ricky on vacation, or his email is Tent Boy, but we like to think of him as the international Tent Boy of mystery. Pro-Am's very own Richard Martin. Richard, how the hell are you?
Good, guys. How are you?
Good.
Thanks
Good to
for
see you,
having me
man.
on today.
Absolutely. I just love your hashtags, by the way. The Ricky on vacation always gets me.
But then when I saw his email, I'm like, I'm kind of jealous of that. That's clever.
And the Instagram, too. I didn't even shout that one out. It's UK Tent Boy.
Yeah.
He's got the good ones. So, Richard, are you hanging back from the vacay and you guys diving full force into what you're doing right now, or how are you running?
Yeah, everybody sees the social media stuff and says, hey, he's always on vacay. But as you guys know, we take them moments preciously as we get to them in this industry. We're going full swing. We're in the middle of summertime, and our Chicago and LA offices are going strong. It's a little quieter in Phoenix and in Orlando, but everything's going busy as usual.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about Pro-Am and kind of your direction and what you're doing currently at Pro-Am. And I know you guys got several different offices, and just how you fall in over there at Pro-Am.
So joined the company about 8 years ago when they purchased my company, and kind of took over the sales side of it, if you like, sitting at that table. Took over all of the sales a couple of years back and became the chief revenue officer for Pro-Am. We have probably a sales team of about 25 actual salespeople, and then maybe another 5 or so admin salespeople. And that group is really doing a great job of promoting Pro-Am around the country.
That's awesome. So you're not so involved in the sales, day-to-day sales anymore then?
I think not really. And when I say I think not, I know not. One of the things, as you guys know, you get a high from sales, right? And it's hard to give that up. That's what feeds us. And, as you talk to people around the country, and you guys are doing a great job with the podcast, I think that buzz is hard to replace. But when you get some young salespeople working for you and doing it, you get equally a high buzz helping them. So that's my role now, is to help them, and they're doing a great job.
So more of like a development mentor side rather than in the day-to-day sales portion.
Yeah, for sure. The young guys, even some of the older guys, right? We have a pretty experienced group along with the young guys, just like to interact a little bit, see, hey, what did you try here? How did this work for you? And I think I've really started really enjoying that as much as I ever did sales.
Nice.
Right. So let's shift it back then. What got you here? How did you get into this industry? And I know you had your own company, and you can touch on that and dive into that a little bit, but how did you get here?
Well, I can go back all the way to the late 80s, early 90s. And I was in the UK. That's where I grew up, as most of you know. Um, but I applied for a job at a company called Rhoda UK. Uh, Rhoda UK was hiring a trainee sales guy, and I managed to get hired as a trainee sales guy by a gentleman named Jim Smith and David Wally out of the UK. And that was back when there was only one Rhoda. So, Heinz Rhoda was it. It was Rhoda. And um, now there's, as you know, like I think three versions of Rhoda. So it's a little diluted now.
So when you first got hired, what was your like territory, or were you just selling in the UK?
So just selling two rental companies in the UK. My territory was the north of the UK. And if I can give you a little bit of geography, kind of like east of the Mississippi is the population base in the US.
Hmm.
North of a town or city called Peterborough is kind of equal population to south of Peterborough. But Peterborough is only maybe an hour north of London, maybe an hour and a half max. And the rest. So I had all of the north of England, all of Scotland, most of Wales, and Northern Ireland.
Oh wow.
Right. So it's a pretty big territory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and beautiful territory at that.
oh my gosh, it's so nice. So,
Love that. So then, with Rotor, how long were you in the UK before you made the transfer over to the US?
I was with them for a couple of years. And the reason Rhoda was in the US was they used to be a Formula One Grand Prix in Phoenix. Not a lot of people know that. I think it was only there for one, maybe 2 years. It was before I came. And Rhoda worldwide serviced the Paddock Club for Formula One. So they had an office in Tempe, Arizona, to service the Paddock Club at the Phoenix Formula One. When that went away, they decided they wanted to keep their office and try and do some business in the US. And they asked if I'd come and help for 2 years. So in January 92, I came to Tempe, Arizona, straight from the UK, never been to America before, and
Wow.
started my 2 year participation as Rhoda USA's man of all tools, whatever the saying is, you know that.
And are you
So
still
at that
on that
point-
2 years, Richard? Are you still?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still on the 2 years. So here we are in 2025, and I've been here
Fair
for 2
enough.
years.
So at that point, they were renting, setting up, and everything weren't as much of just manufacturing in the U.S. like they tend to be now. So were you doing anything other than that GP, or did you just solely focus on that?
So they were just a rental company in the U.S. and
Okay.
they had 6 employees and probably about, I'm guessing a little bit, and I could be off a little bit on things, so please nobody hold me to task, but about $500,000 a year. So
Okay.
pretty small.
Yeah, but enough to keep you here, and as long as the race stayed here. How long did the race stay for?
No, it was gone. I came when it had gone.
Oh, it was gone.
So that was the
Okay.
whole point of me coming, was that the race went away, but they wanted to build a business here. So,
Got it. Okay. So you took that along for how many years then?
so I went there, and the end of that first year, we bought a company called Gold Coast Tents in Florida. Gold
Okay.
Coast Tents was owned by a gentleman named Steve Scrimshaw, uh, kind of an icon in the old school days. Steve Scrimshaw, Bob Fitzgerald, Andy Nolan, Dan Nolan, people like that were around back then, doing a lot of things. And Steve became our boss. Steve then asked me to stay longer than 2 years. So I did. I stayed with Rhoda USA until about 1998. So,
Okay. So then 98, you made a transition. Is that when you started your own company?
yeah, I went to my wife at the time and said, "Hey, how much money do we need to survive each year and pay all our bills?" She told me a ridiculously low number. And I said, "I think I can make that much money." And I left. I made a little bit more than that. And as opposed to thinking I wouldn't travel as much, traveled just as much, to be honest.
What was the name of your
Absolutely.
company at the time?
Back then, it's got many iterations. Back then, it was Oxford Productions. Always had
Okay.
an English connotation to it back then. So,
And with your company, did you jump right into structures and rental stuff, or did you just, with it being a production side, did you do more productions? How did you handle that?
so unlike a lot of people in this industry, most people in this industry started on pole tents and frame tents back in the
Hmm.
day. I started because I my first experience was with Rhoda UK. I started with structures, so I didn't really know about pole tents. Um, I learned that much later when I asked a rental company if I could go and help them put up a pole tent, right? So I went and learned that later in life. But I always was connected to the tent side of things. So even when I left Rhoda USA, I primarily worked quite a lot off my kitchen table and found contracts, found people that would be willing to let me manage that. And then I'd go and find companies, a lot of companies around the USA, and said, "Hey, would you rent me the product and send me a crew?" And we'd go and I'd just be a broker, to be honest, in the beginning.
So you didn't have like a actual inventory
No,
that you were
not to
working out of.
begin with. No, it was
Okay.
purely going to rental companies, which is why, and I think you'll probably, as you ask around, see that I've rented from a lot of the companies around the USA in the days.
Did you have primary partners at that point that you really teamed up with to travel, or did you just use people that were in those certain areas? Because I'd assume back then with structure, I mean, structure wasn't. It sounds like you're a little ahead of the game on the structure side. So not everybody had the structure. So if you were doing production stuff, you had to really find somebody that had the structure that you were needing. That probably was scarce, right?
Yeah, so I mean, over the initial 6 to 7 years in the US, working for Road USA, you got to kind of know. I mean, if you take someone like I think Chattanooga, Mahaffey, a company called CST, were primarily really the front runners in the structure business in the US. And
Hmm.
they used a mix back in them days of just Hawker and Rotor. That was really what was available in the US. Um, and then obviously Rotor USA had some. So when I became this production guy, if you like, then I kind of knew who to go and ask to. And, I'd get a quote from them. I'd mark that quote up and go get the customer, and the customer would let me produce the job. So.
Nice. At what point did you start buying your own inventory?
So in the early 2000s, right around about 2003, 2004 is when I really started to think, okay, I need to push this boat out a little bit more, and started buying product. And by then, Losberger was the product that was really doing well in the US. And if you had a model similar to mine where you relied on subrenting quite a lot from people, you kind of had to go down that road. And so we started going down that road with the product.
Which is funny that because that's kind of still the case today.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. You have to make smart decisions, right? I
Yeah,
mean, so if you need to subrent product, what can you subrent the most of that's, in line with what you do?
yeah.
So with Rotor, when you left there, it kept going, and who took it over? And did you have a relationship then with them where you felt like you could still sub rent, or were they a little offset that you left and went and started your own deal?
Yeah, no. So in the mid 90s, Murray Hamilton and Billy Norton and I were the salespeople for Rhoda USA. And
Hmm.
post my employment at Rhoda USA, we left on really good terms. I didn't leave under any sort of cloud that I know of, at least. And they would rent to me. And still today, I'm friends with Billy and Murray. So it's kind of
Good.
nice.
Yeah.
So
Small industry, everybody.
it is a
It's
small
not a
industry.
good thing to burn a bridge in this industry, as I say. So in '04, you started buying structure. What was the first structure that you bought, and how did you decide how deep you wanted to dive in on this? I mean, starting out, newer, as you were talking, you asked your wife how much you needed for bills. Did you just say, screw it, we're going to go all in and buy a ton? Or did you hand pick and select based on events that you had coming up, or how did you do that?
So we had a little knowledge of what sort of work we were getting and having that. So, we really started with that 15, 20, 25 meter range. and it all broke down from 15 to 20 to 25. So you could get one tent that would really kind of run the gamut
Hmm.
of what you needed. So I think that that was our primary focus back then, was that sort of size. You could do some small stuff. You could do some 6 meter and 9 meter and 12 meter, 20, 30, 40 for anybody else that's listening in English. So we did that, but that really wasn't going to make enough money or warrant the traveling to go with it. And
Right.
the 30 meter back then was kind of the big tent,
Hmm.
right? So you had few rentals for that. So you just don't get that from somebody if you needed that.
Where were you
Got it.
based out of at that point?
Phoenix, Arizona. So until recently, I've lived 100% of the time in Arizona. And it's just recently I've started living the summers and the fall in Michigan and the winters and the spring in Phoenix.
Well, when it's 120 degrees during the summer down there, you got to find a way out. That's for
Like it
sure.
is now.
I do, I do love Phoenix for the golf portion, but my God, is it hot? So in '04, then what was the events that you were really focusing on?
Sort of like corporate events. McDonald's used to do a big managers meeting every 3 years in Vegas, where they'd do a month-long show where they'd invite their operators from around the country, and they'd split it into East, Central, and West. And they'd do a big meeting where they'd bring them all in, give seminars and corporate messages to them, and that'd culminate in a final night party for them. And it was the final night party that we used to build for them back in them days. So things like that.
Okay.
Not really a lot of golf or anything like that. A few tennis tournaments back in them days for sure.
Hmm. That makes more sense. So then, did you have a full staff of employees, and who did you start hiring, or were you subbing out those guys as well? Still,
So back in them days, we had a few of my friends that came along and wanted to be the labor. They were the labor. We'd have probably 10 of us. And then if we needed more than that, then we'd sub out that part of it. So in
I
the
feel like that's the story of this industry for
Yeah.
almost every business. I can remember my summers of when I first started at A's Rental, and it was just based on most of my friends that were around me, and it was a blast.
Yeah. That's
Now,
high school, college
now I
days
can't
for
get them.
me. Same thing.
Yeah, now you can't get them to come hang out with you and work for you anymore.
Well, they've done it one too many times. They know,
Yeah.
they know what you really want.
We're the ones that got stuck.
Yeah,
Oh, I
they
love
were
it.
lifting them legs and they'd be like, wait a minute, this is real work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have the back problems that we all have.
Right. That's
They're out. So then, '04, how long did you run your business for then?
So in 2006, I bought a company in Denver called Distinctive Tents.
Okay.
Gentleman John Crowley, who started in Chicago,
Hmm.
he worked his summers at HDO in Chicago. And then when he left and went to Denver, he started a rental company. Him and I were friends from the early 90s. In 2006, he thought he wanted to exit, and we made a deal, added Distinctive Tents to our company. And in doing that, it also kind of put a bit of a spotlight on us. And some people started looking at what we were doing and became interested in us.
Okay. And so now you got two businesses. You got
Mhm.
one in Phoenix, one in Denver.
Yep.
And so the one in Denver, what was the focus on over there?
They,
Was that
they,
more
they
kind of
were
regional?
they were a pure tent rental company and didn't go outside of Denver other than the odd little foray when a customer took them somewhere. But really, their 99% of their business was in Denver.
Okay. And then so basically just doing your normal stuff around Denver.
Mhm.
Was it party rental or was it just tents?
Just tents. There was another company in Denver that
Hmm.
did all the party rental stuff, and they were very close to each other, which we remained close to each other. And we'd go to the meetings together. They'd go for the party rental, we'd go for the tent side of things, and push forward from there.
It's nice when you
Okay.
can get those relationships.
Yeah,
Even today.
Oh, yeah.
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 And I can assume that Denver had its challenges too, especially with the snow loads and everything there later on, in the winters. I bet that was fun.
Yeah, they had a very heavy summer season and a
Hmm.
very light. I mean, there was things like the Steamboat Music Festival that
Yeah.
was in January in Steamboat, so you can imagine there's some snow up there for then. But they didn't do an awful lot through the winter months.
Okay. All right. All right. So now we're into '08. Richard owns two companies. Where'd you buy next?
So you got to back it up a year. So this 2006 to 2007, we went on the radar, and a gentleman by the name of Ed Latek, which some of you probably know, approached me, and he says, "How do I not know you?" And I'm like, "Going, I don't know. How do you not know me? I mean, I have no idea." And he goes, I want to buy the Denver company off you. And I go, well, I don't want to sell the Denver company. I just bought it. And it was at a time when companies were doing these acquisitions and roll ups and stuff like that. He goes, well, what if I buy it all from you? I said, well, it depends how much money you have, right? And I'll tell
I'm
you,
just getting started.
yeah, exactly, right? I'm just starting to make some money.
Yeah.
And I think I can point to a big mistake I made, right? And that's get wrapped up in wanting to make a deal,
Hmm.
right? And I think that I got kind of focused in on, man, I'd like to say I sold to a private equity company because lots of people were doing it, and I did that. So I in 2007, I sold to the first group that bought Pro-M, right?
Okay.
So I joined, Glenn Klemp and Kevin Moore. I think you know them guys.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They sold to Pro-M. I joined that little party, and so a company called Severica bought Arizona Tents, Peerless Events, which is now my company name, Peerless Events. Right back in them days, it changed. They bought the Gorilla companies. So we had all this group of companies all come together to form Pro-M in 2007.
So I think you made a very interesting point, and I think that what you're saying happened in '06, '07 is currently making its way back. That there's a lot of these companies that are coming in and seeing this rental business, and they're wanting to buy out and make these bigger companies. And I know you wouldn't. I know you love your job and what you're doing now, and everything with Pro-Am. But do you still feel like maybe you should have stuck it out a little bit, or do you feel like it was the right time to sell? Just hearing what you said there.
So hindsight's wonderful. I think
Hmm.
that's a wonderful thing. I think it was a mistake to participate in 2007, and I think
Okay.
it was way too early. I think,
Yeah.
I was just really starting to build a quite nice book of business, starting to have some inventory, starting to kind of get a bit of a foothold. Now, fast forward to 2009, and I might be a genius, but I don't think I am a genius. I think I'm just a
Yeah.
little bit
With the
lucky.
recession. Yeah.
The recession hit,
Yeah.
right?
W-
And it
Well,
really
I
hurt the
think,
business.
yeah, I think it all looks fun at that time. You're probably enjoying what you're doing, and you're finally just kicking it off, and you're starting to make money, and it seems fun. But yeah, with that recession coming, that was my next question. When that hit, that didn't really affect you directly as a business owner, but I mean, obviously, it affected you being in the industry like the rest of us. But did you take a breath and look back and then say, "Well, maybe I made the right decision"?
So Ed Latek will tell you I made the right decision because of that.
Right.
And I will tell you that if a recession hits our industry, it really
Hmm.
depends on your debt level.
Hmm.
And if you don't have a lot of debt, our industry does a pretty good job of riding it out. And I didn't
We
have any
thrived. Yeah.
debt, right? I mean, it's the debt that kills you in them sort of moments. And I didn't have any debt. So I think I could have ridden it out and
Hmm.
been okay. Pro-M, however, did have some debt and didn't do very good at all in all of that.
Well, and I think that with the company that you were doing and the things that you were doing, you were probably a little bit more recession proof than maybe like a Pro-Am and the events that they focus on. I'm sure, and we'll get into it, but like 2020, when 2020 hit, a lot of the companies that didn't have the big focuses on big events and things like that, they probably were a little bit more profitable and more recession proof than some of the bigger companies that focus on events, right?
Very much so. Very
Well,
much so.
well, I think that's a good point, Nate, for all of our listeners. You know, we talk about all the time that everyone thinks bigger is better, but sometimes bigger just means you have a much bigger debt line. And in scenarios where something bad could happen, like obviously COVID ended up being very good for the industry, or most of us. But if we went into a recession and you're carrying all the debt like Richard's talking about, that could really hurt some of these smaller companies from surviving.
Well, it's coming again. I mean, I see the forecast and everything, and it's coming in 2030s, whatever it is, but it's coming. So
Did
it's just
you
how you prepare for it.
you guys both know this very well, I'm sure, but when you had a rental company, if you were doing maybe 2.5 million to $3 million in rentals a year, you were making pretty good money as a small company,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
But the journey to 5 to 6 million, you probably made less on the journey than you did at 2.5 to 3. You actually had to get to 6 before you were
Mhm.
making good money again, because you had to spend ahead of making the money, right, to grow. So unless you were really lucky and got them 3 or 4 jobs that landed that took you to the growth automatically to the next stage, that journey is quite expensive. And the growth side
Yeah.
of it really eats the profit. So you're either that small company making a nice living, not too stressed out. You have your 4 or 5 months of the year where you're crazy, and then you get to relax a little bit, not totally, right? And then you go, okay, I'm now going to be a $6 million company, and it's like, man, I'm not making the money I was making at 2.5 to 3. It's
I,
like,
I say that all the time, Richard.
I've had many conversations with some guys that are coming up and they're starting and they feel like they're stuck in that $2 to $4 million range. And a couple of them I've talked to, I'm like, what's wrong with it? What's wrong with your $2 to $4 million range? Because to me, honestly, that feels like the sweet spot. That feels like where you're making the most money. You're able to enjoy life a little bit more because you probably have 30 employees, maybe 40 employees at that point. You're not traveling all over the U.S. You're kind of more regional. You might not have a whole lot of work in, let's say, December through or January through maybe April. But you're still, if you got furniture, you're still doing indoor business and everything else. So I feel like that's kind of the sweet spot. Just to your point, you hit that 5. I feel like you get to right around 6 to 11, and you're starting to say, okay, now we got to hone in on where we can cut to really save profit margins and everything else. And everybody's running a little bit tighter on that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
So you sold out, beat the you got out of the way of the recession and everything, and you merged with Pro-Am then. So you came in with Pro-Am, and how did your day-to-day change at that point? Because you went from a business owner to more of now you're under an umbrella.
Yeah, I started sitting in a lot of meetings that
Hmm.
were not customer related, that were not operationally related. They were just about how to be a corporate organization and CFOs and CEOs and things like that. And it was really not a lot of fun. I'll be honest. Back in them
A lot of
days,
red tape.
a lot of red tape back in them days. So the recession hit, and Pro-Am struggled. Pro-Am struggled. They'd had a lot of business in the commercial business in the Arizona area, and all of that went away almost immediately. The tent division probably would have done really well without the debt burden. The debt burden really hurt Pro-Am, and they had taken on some mezz financing. And anybody that's been involved in mezz financing before knows that's high risk, high interest rates, stuff like that. So they couldn't afford to keep me. So I went away, and they went about trying to restructure their business. And I started another business.
So what year was that?
That was in 2011. I started my new business.
Okay, and what was that business called for everybody?
So there was 2 divisions of it. There was Universal Resource Supply, which vowed never to do tents. Was all going to do air conditioning and floors and anything other than tents. And then SoCal Tents and Events as a regional Southern California business. And in that, I had a partner. Back then was called Judy Montoya. Now it's called Judy Garcia. She's originally from the Academy days, and then she joined me to create SoCal Tents and Events in Southern California.
Did you have a non-compete
So
when they let you go?
that's what my
Because
question was.
because they failed to pay $135,000,
Oh, well,
they broke it.
yeah, I'd say so. Well, you kind of made out on that deal then to get out of there, especially at the right time. So you vowed to not get back into tents, but I'm guessing you got back into tents
Oh,
then.
straight away. Didn't
Yeah,
even
yeah,
blink. I mean, it's we talk about people in our industry, and I refer to them affectionately as corporate carnies. We're the
mm.
circus. We come to town, man, and we're like cockroaches. You can't kill us, so we just
Exactly.
keep
Yeah.
coming back.
Just keep coming back. So did you build up an inventory again then,
Yep,
or what did you
started
do?
building an inventory, had pole tents, frame tents in Southern California, uh, bought some structures, still down the Losberger Road of
Okay,
doing that. We were helped. So this is where kind of Anchor Industries came in a little bit. Anchor
okay,
Industries helped me. We landed a tour for Oprah. Oprah was doing an 8-city tour, and we'd landed this setup, and we needed quite a lot of material, and all kind of in that 6 to 18 meter range. So from 20 foot to 60 foot, nothing bigger. A couple of octagon tents in there and stuff like that. And Mike Cruz and Anchor Industries really kind of sucked me in by giving me a great deal on buying some tents for the tour. And we became owners of venue at that point.
okay.
So Pete Mogavera blessed it. And so, I've always been friends with Mike Cruz. Like, we're all friends, even if we're not buying from each other or renting from each other.
Right.
Our industry is so small.
Yep.
Hmm.
Everyone talks about the 6 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon. I think our
Yep.
industry is one max. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
maybe two in some cases, but it's that close.
That's awesome. So then they sucked you back in. You're buying inventory. You're doing the whole
Mhm.
9 yards. How long did this go on for?
So this went on till 2017, I think it was. In 2000, so we were doing a large project in Vegas that needed a 200-foot wide tent, 60
Hmm.
meter. And Pro-Am, the new Pro-Am now, there's a new Pro-Am. A guy named Amir Glagon came in. He came in to really kind of liquidate it in 2011, ended up falling in love with it and turned it around. They were doing great. And we were friends. So that's good. I try never to break any, friendships or anything because we're too small an industry. And they had bought a 60-meter, 200-foot wide for the Phoenix Open. And I was sub renting a 60-meter from Arena for this job in Vegas. And I was talking to a friend of mine was the vice president of a small bank in Arizona. And I was talking to him about this 60-meter that we were renting in Vegas. And we were doing it 4 or 5 times a year. And he goes, "Well, why don't you buy the tent?" I said, "Because I don't have $1 million to buy it." Right? And he goes, "Well, if you've got a contract for 4 or 5 of these a year, I bet you can borrow the money pretty easy against
The
the."
tent. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I think we've expressed that I don't like debt. I hate debt, right?
Yes.
And I'm going, do I really want to borrow $1 million and do this? So fast forward, we borrowed $1 million and we bought the tent. and I was going to treat it like a sub rental. So every time I did the job, I was going to take the amount of money I would have paid a sub rental for and pay down the debt. Right. So
Yeah.
I was going to pay
Right.
it really super quick. And so in September of 2016, I think it was, we took possession of a 200-foot by 300-foot structure from Losberger. And
That was a hell of a jump back in.
yeah, so we're all the way in now, right? I mean,
Yeah, all the way.
all the way in. And the day we took possession of it, I had a big heart attack.
Yeah.
So we call it the Widowmaker, the 60-meter in our circles.
Hmm.
And so in September 2016, we took possession of this 60-meter. You can ask Pat and all the boys; they'll tell you. Oh no! The day he took possession of it, he went into hospital. So so, so it kind of changes your look on things a little bit, So here we are, 2016, you're getting a little older. You're not the young kid you were anymore. You definitely got the debt now. You've signed
Hmm.
on for this $1 million of debt, and and you're running this office in LA, and you're running the office in Phoenix. You've got 40 employees. You're doing a nice piece of business. Maybe in some, we still relied on the bigger jobs for contract labor. We didn't, because it was a bit of a roller coaster, the big jobs. You'd either, it'd be feast or famine. You'd have everything at the same time, or you'd have nothing at the same time. So the local business had a core of like 40 people. And then you'd ramp up as you got, like, say, let's say you're doing the 60-meter in Vegas, right? You'd bring in an extra crew of maybe 15 people just to do that job. So that's how we kind of worked through it. But in that whole medical issue, and now this, a friend of mine, I think I mentioned his name just a few minutes ago, Amir Glago, came back to me. He goes, "Hey, do you want to sell your company?"
Here we go again.
So I'd gone to the kids, and the kids said they didn't want to run the business, right? And that was kind of the thing. So I sat down with Amir Glago, and I said, "Look, we might be interested in doing this, but if you want 5 years history, and what you're going to value this on, there's no way. There's no way I'm not doing it." So I said, "If you want to look at 1 year and evaluate it, we might be able to make a deal." So we sat down. He goes, "Well, let's get the numbers." So we gave him the numbers. We again made a deal. But remember, so we're sitting in a conference room, and we're ready to shake hands on the deal. And we've got everything down. And there's Kevin Benoit and Joseph Mercer are in the room. And Amir goes, really the guy, me and Amir are really making the deal. And I stand up to shake hands. I go, "Oh, wait a minute. We have one unresolved issue." And remember the 135,000 that they didn't pay me on the first deal? I said,
Oh man.
it's the deal plus 135,000.
Oh my God.
And Amir and I are just laughing, right? And Kevin and Joseph have no idea what's going on, right? So they're sitting there, and Amir's laughing. We shake hands. He looks at Kevin and Joseph. He goes, plus 135,000. And he goes, so, and I said to Amir, I said, "I told you I'd get that money one day." And he goes, "I told you you'd help me make money, and that's how you would get it." And so we both conceded that we both had won.
Absolutely.
And
That's a good little power play there. I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie.
so in 2017, June, I think it was, of 2017, I signed a 3-year deal and sold my company to Pro-M again, right? So I signed on for 3 years, and that was 8 years ago. Well, I'm still sitting here today.
So, oh man. So one, we're glad that you're here. It sounds like after this heart
Yeah,
attack.
no, oh, it was bad. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Everything you've been good. Everything since
Great
then.
now. Yeah, yeah. They
Awesome.
found we got to the hospital. We took care of it. We follow the rules now, and yeah,
We follow the
everything's great.
That's all.
rules.
That's awesome. So man, so you didn't regret after it sounds like it was last time you had some regrets on the first time. The second time you really sat down and made a lifestyle decision based on what the future was going to look like, not for you just personally and selfishly, but for your family.
Yeah, it
And
was for all of us. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and it sounds like that has worked out very well into what you wanted where you're at today in your work life balance, correct?
Yeah, very much so. And the part is I still get my fix because I'm still in
Hmm.
the industry, right? So
Right.
there is a fix we need from it, right? And still get that. And my family have done well from it. Um, and I think it's great. And I get to sit at the big boy table and with Pro M, there's a few of us at that table, and that's a lot of fun.
And you don't have to take on the debt again now.
And I'm not taking on any personal debt for
So now,
that.
now the Widowmaker structure, where's that? And is that
Uh,
event still going?
So that event happens not as often. The
Okay.
people that used it built a big addition to their facility, a
Hmm.
60,000 square foot addition to their facility,
Hmm.
and but they still use it. We're still very good friends, and Pro-Am now with the Phoenix Open, and the we had bought another. Um, we have like 450 meters of 60-meter now, Uh, and
That's
we,
just crazy to
It's
think about.
laughable. It really is.
so if you want a widowmaker, take on the debt for that. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, that kind of shifts into what I want to talk about next, and just pro am and these high profile event structures that you guys are doing over there. Take me through kind of like the key of the what the key is to these structures and the design of these structures under such tight logistical restraints. I mean, you guys are doing these massive, and so people who don't know, Richard's team does the Waste Management Open, and if you've ever seen that party hole and that structure out there, and then all those other structures out there, I mean, it's wild. So just take us through what that design process looks like in order to make sure that you guys are getting everything logistically done in time.
so let's look at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, right? I
Hmm.
mean, it's the biggest golf tournament in the world, the most attended golf tournament in the world. Um, there's a gentleman within Pro Am that some people know, some don't know, but Brady Castro. Brady Castro is really responsible for how that really is today, right? You can go back to Glenn Klemp and Kevin Moore as Arizona Tents and Events. They started the tent side of the Phoenix Open way back in the day. So if you look at the progression of the pitches, specifically around 16, which is the most famous part of the Waste Management Phoenix Open, you can see how that's evolved over the years. Um, but Brady's done a fantastic job of making it what it is today from a tenant standpoint and introducing new ideas to it. It's a year-long process. So it's, as you know, it's the week of Super Bowl every year. Culminates on Super Bowl Sunday. Close to 1 million people go through the event. Uh, and the minute it's over, everyone takes like about a week's break of catch their breath and everything. And then they start planning for the next year straight away. Uh, we don't do the scaffold, the seat-ins or anything like that. In production does that, and they do a great job of that. And then we come in maybe 2 or 3 weeks behind them. So somewhere in October, we start building tents at the Phoenix Open for Super Bowl week event. So
Golly. So
yeah,
that is you got a good timeline there then. But I mean, it's probably down to the wire on making sure that you get everything done with all the weather in between there and everything else, right?
so one of the advantages of the Phoenix Open for Pro Am is,
Hmm.
our warehouse is, within 30 minutes of the site.
Right. Okay.
Right. So
Yep.
you can, and you have such an elongated build. Let's say
Hmm.
you had a big weather day or something like that. When you travel to do a big golf tournament, and you've got maybe 20 guys building it, you get a weather day, you're paying 20 guys to sit in a hotel room that day,
Yeah.
Right.
right? In Phoenix, they can just take a day off because they're home each
Yeah.
night,
Right.
right? So you don't have the risk associated that you do with a traveling install of an event. I think the traveling, it's a different mechanics altogether when you're traveling and you've got hotels, per diems, things like that, that you wouldn't have at the Phoenix Open, right? So, and they can always go in the warehouse if you need them in the warehouse. They can always go and do another job that's got to be. We can decide to have, we don't do this very often, but you can say, okay, we've got a large build for another show in the Phoenix area. We can go a little light out at the Phoenix Open today, right?
Hmm.
So we can
You,
redistribute a crew a little bit.
you just said we never do that in case anyone listens from the
Yeah.
Phoenix Open.
Please don't take me down
Well,
on that.
so that's also interesting because I didn't know how many people you have that are in that facility in the pro am in the Arizona division. There, you guys got a pretty big crew down in that area.
We do. We do.
Okay.
The company nationwide has close to 400 employees.
Right.
I think it's 390 something. So don't quote me. It could be more today and it could be less tomorrow. So,
Right.
but the Phoenix is the largest branch of
Okay.
all of the offices and has the most employees. So I'm guessing there's 200 approximately Phoenix employees,
Okay. So
right?
I'm curious with a company of your size and safety and everything else, as we've been talking all the safety stuff for the industry and creating these classes and things like that. Talk a little bit about how you guys handle safety on site with a job of that size, but also what it looks like after the build is up and now you got the event going on. There's all these companies that either put a guy on site, or they give a emergency evacuation plan to a planner, things like that if it's a smaller event. But I can only assume that an event that big, you got to staff an entire team, I would say, for safety reasons, right?
Exactly. Safety has become probably the number one thing these days that we're focused on. We have a safety officer for the company.
Okay.
Um, each day, we do what we call a toolbox meeting at the start of the day, where we uh, address security. We're into high vis vests, into hard hats, steel toe boots. We don't always require steel toe cap boots. Uh, People do have a choice with that side of things, but the hard hat's non optional. The high vis vest is non optional. You're not allowed to sit out the toolbox meetings. You have to participate. And every installer is OSHA 10, and every project manager and lead guy is OSHA 30, right? So for people that don't know what that is, and every salesperson, by the way, is OSHA 10 too. So we require the salespeople to understand what they're asking people to do.
I love that.
So, um, so OSHA 10 is kind of like the bare bones of safety and what have you, and gives you a general overview of what's needed. OSHA 30 is a 30-hour course. OSHA 10 is a 10-hour course. OSHA 30 is a 30-hour course, and that's a little bit more in depth. And
Hmm.
then there's working at elevation. There's another course for that. Rigging. There's another. So these days, so the project managers and the lead guys have to take this OSHA 30 part, and then sometimes even more. Uh, you're only allowed to drive the forklifts if you're carded. Uh, we make deals with the rental equipment people that we rent from to train the people and qualify them to drive them. And each level of forklift needs a different clearance for that. So we do that. We do that as much as possible. Um, I can go back to the 90s, and we didn't do an awful lot of that back then, I'll be honest.
Oh yeah. Well, I just think these golf tournaments, man, it just, as you see the structure and the innovation that is just developing in all these different spaces, it's like the safety just becomes more and more crazy,
Well,
and and just the prioritizing it is one thing, but then making sure that I think you got to look at your budget, but then you can't weigh your safety on your budget, and so it's how do you get your customer then to buy in and things like that.
So every pitch we do,
Hmm.
there's a safety part of that pitch where we talk about it. There's a cost to safety, as you guys know, and we try and explain it as best we can. And some
right.
customers are good. Some customers are excited that you have it,
Right.
Yeah.
right? And then some customers are like, yeah, but this other company's cheaper than you, and they don't want to. I go, yeah, but they've got not a great track record of being safe here. But some customers, and you know what? There's nothing you can do about that. There's
No.
Yeah.
absolutely nothing you can do. You just got to move on and do your best and try and use the benefits of being a safety conscious company.
Yeah.
There's unfortunately always going to be that company that'll always come in and do it cheaper and not as nearly as safe, and that's when we
Mhm.
have the issues, and that's what gives our company or this industry the black eye. So
But
it's
but
good.
I think
Good
you
to hear
guys
that.
know organizations like ARA are doing a tremendous job of promoting it now, and there's always a seminar or more than one at the ARA shows, at other shows that revolve around that safety now.
Yeah.
So we're doing
It's
a much better job as an industry.
yeah. It's funny because it's hard to get. I have people who work for me who've been in it from the '90s, and those are the guys who are the hardest to. All right, hey, this is a different time. Yeah, you're retraining them from all those years of they could get away with whatever they wanted.
Well, you got to retrain the whole brain. It's not just. I mean, it's like I've done it this way, and that's one of the biggest lines in this industry. Why are we changing it? We've always done it this way, and it's like I get that, but things are changing. We have to adapt. We have to be better. I mean, being out there in no shoes, flip flops, no shirt on, and swinging the sledgehammers, that was back in the day. You know, I'm sure Brian Richardson still goes out to a site and does that, but
We wish he would keep his shirt on, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I love you, Brian.
If you follow
Uh,
Brian on social media, I think you see it occasionally.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Or we see his wife shoveling all the snow while he watches. Either one. So, Richard, where do you see this industry going with live events? Just the future of live events and the infrastructures. Where do you guys think that this is heading, and is it just going to continue to grow in that aspect?
I think in general, it's going to keep growing. I don't think live events are going away. Again, there may be a downtrend for a year or two or three, but I think in general, it's going to keep growing. It's going to become more and more sophisticated. The line that everybody likes to use is, "I don't want my tent to look like a tent," right? I mean,
Yeah.
so we as a group, and I think that I look at the young guys, you guys, right? People like Ramsey, right? And are just kind of evolving this business and bringing a new dimension to it. If you look at someone like Alain Perez down in Florida, some of the stuff that he kicks out, it's like,
Wild.
oh my God, that's
Yeah.
I sit there and go, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do you right? So I think that this business is going to keep evolving.
Hmm.
They're going to keep creating new things. I think we're going to go higher and higher. I think that's just
Well, I
you
think
get.
you're gonna go higher and higher. You're running out of real estate on that green.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to see, you've got your standard two levels that a lot of people are doing now, and then I've seen Formula One and 16 is three levels, right? And I think you're going to see four and five. I mean, I think every time a big event, I think if you look maybe towards the Olympics when it comes to LA next time, I think you're going to see some crazy innovations of going higher. And let's hope we're still growing our safety at the same rate that we're increasing the degree of difficulty in what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, do we see Richard Martin coming into another 9 years here at Pro Am, or a little bit longer, wanting to get out and start his own production company again, or is this where Richard Martin is going to stay for a while for the long haul?
I think I don't think there's any more Richard Martin production companies in the future.
Okay.
Richard's a little old these days, but I used to say that, okay, I'll do one more year. I'll do one more year. I'll do
Hmm.
one more year. I kind of changed my mindset a little bit to be like, man, I'm lucky to be doing what I'm doing still. Right. And I get to go to the shows and see you guys and kind of laugh. And I kind of do the Steve Frost of this world where you walk around and you tell the stories that you've been telling for years. I kind of get to do that now and share that. And it's kind of fun. And as I like to say, the older I get, the better I was.
Hmm. Yep. That's good. Well, and I feel like the longer you're in this industry, the harder it is to get out. Not just because you can't go do something else, but it's the people and everybody around. I think we could all agree that there's been many times where we want to just throw our hands up and be done in this industry. But if you look at it, it's like, okay, I can go work over here and do this and do something totally different, but I don't have the camaraderie and the friends at the shows. And, it weighs on you when you're thinking about jobs. So as long as you're doing something in your business that you go to every day and you love doing it, there was a guy in Lexington that always said, do what makes your heart sing. And I feel like as long as you're doing that in your company every day, you're going to want to be there for the long haul.
Yeah, look, it's amazing. I mean, we get to put on parties for a living,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? That's what we do. I mean, if you want to break it down to the simplest format of everything, and it's fun. I mean, you get to go to any event you want. I don't go to many events anymore, I'll be honest, right? But you can go to any event you want,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Even
if
if you don't do it, because odds are you probably know who
Know
does.
somebody. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're one step away. I'm telling you, every
Yeah.
time, and it's like, how many times does someone call your dad or call me and go, "Hey, can I come and see that?" And we're like, "Yeah, we'd love to show you that,"
Yeah.
and we like live in the moment, right? Of thing, and the young guys, I'm telling you, the young guys are way smarter than we ever were, right? And I think it's on you guys to do that now,
We just have
right?
to keep them.
Yeah, you got to find a way to keep them because
Hmm.
that's hard. But if they get the bug, man, it's hard to walk away from it.
It
You got
is.
to show them the path. I think that nowadays it's a lot of these younger generation guys want it and they want it now. But you gotta pave a path for them because I mean, honestly, did we, Kyle? I mean, I don't know about you. I mean, I do know about you, but like we were never told, and you bounced around too. But like
Yeah,
this is your path. You had to jump in and dive in and do it to make them let you do that position. You couldn't
exactly.
just
Yeah,
where nowadays they want it here and you want it they want it now and you're like, let me pave the way for you and show you what I didn't get shown on what you can do in this industry and what the long term is of this.
yeah,
And I think
Yeah.
as long as you do that, we can keep people in this industry and it's going to be fun. And that's the whole point of this podcast. That's the whole point of all these classes with ARA and not all the other associations. It's just fun.
Yeah, I think that we're in a day now where somebody goes out and they sell and put up a 12-meter tent and they go, okay, I'm ready to go on to 30-meter now. I'm like, well, okay, slow down, cowboy.
Yep. Yep.
Slow
Yep.
down. It was a
Oh yeah.
beautiful sunny day
yeah,
and you could pull the truck up alongside it
Yep.
and nothing went wrong. So it was,
A little bit different. No, I
let's try and do
understand.
it in the rain and the wind first, shall we?
yeah.
Yeah.
That is so true, Richard. They think it's the same exact thing.
The
And
20 mile. Yeah.
it's probably the one thing that money guys coming into the industry
They don't
can't quite
understand.
get their heads around. Well, wait a
Mhm.
minute. You put up that 12 by 25 meter with this many people in this many hours yesterday. How did it take two more guys and three more hours today? Right?
The
Well, the weather.
labor is
Yeah.
always going to be the worst part of this industry, as we know. And I think that that's what the guys that are buying these companies right now currently don't see and they
Mhm.
don't understand. And that's, I mean, that just goes back to our conversation of the $2 to $4 million companies versus you get these bigger companies, and they want to come in, but you're like, but weigh the labor option. It looks all gravy and fun and everything and shiny, but when you get into the nuts and bolts of it and you see the labor, that's where and and they don't know how to find the labor like we do. They can buy the company and they can do everything they want to do, but you got to find a way to find the labor still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a very hard part of what we do. And the most significant part.
yeah.
Right.
If we argue all the time, they're the most valuable asset every company has. It's not the tent sitting on the shelf. It's the guys you have that can put them up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And can they take care of the equipment when they put it up?
Yeah, well,
Hmm.
yeah,
Right?
And take care of their crew that puts it up.
Yeah.
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 So
So,
So
Richard, for the young folks coming into this industry or listening, what is the best piece of advice you could give them?
So I'll give them the very first piece of advice I was given coming into this industry by Jim Smith. He was the head of Rota UK. He said, "Sleep quickly."
ooh, that's good. That makes me think for a minute.
Yeah,
So when you first start out, there isn't enough hours in the day to do what we do, right?
Hmm.
And when you're young and hungry, you work all of them hours and you want it and you get that craving for it. I think that today, right, if in sales, I'll give you this piece of advice: sending a text or an email is not enough. Go and say hello to somebody, right? Getting it off your desk doesn't mean it's done. You've got to go and make a relationship. That's what we all did. And I understand it's different now. Once they're a repeat customer and everything, maybe a text or an email is okay. But nothing replaces going to see somebody and getting to know them, right? From an operational standpoint is learn your trade, learn how to use the tent ox to save your back, right? Learn how to use forklifts, learn how to use the winches that pull the tops over, things like that. Understand the evolution of what we're doing,
right.
because I don't know that we, and I say we as me, the 60 plus crowd, really fully understand that, right? I think that, but the young guys definitely do. Now, there is no substitute for hard work,
Correct.
right? Every container I've ever unloaded, some young guys go, wait, I think there's a better way of doing this. Sometimes you just have to get in and do it,
Yeah,
Hmm.
right? So don't be fooled that there's a shortcut for everything. Operationally, sometimes you just got to go and do it.
Absolutely. That's the key to this business is just going and doing. And
Yeah.
that's how I feel like half these people move up. You just got to go do it. But
Hmm.
Well, Richard, this has been a great episode. I really appreciate it. I know we could probably go on for another hour here, so would love to get you back on here in the future and have some more conversation with you. But love watching what you're doing. Love seeing the structures that you guys are putting up is just mind blowing sometimes, and it's great. You're great for the industry. That's great for the industry, and so we're glad to have you.
And I think what you guys are doing is great for the industry. So thank you for doing this and bringing some insight into other people's lives. I think it's going to do nothing but help improve what we all do.
Absolutely.
We appreciate that, Richard.
Absolutely. And for all the listeners, just don't forget to like and subscribe and find us on any of the podcast platforms, as well as we are now on YouTube under ARA's page on YouTube. So this has been another episode of Under the Vinyl and ARA Rental Management Podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Richard.
I'm the one you call when you need a turn up or down. I'm a tent rental man, I'm working all day, getting the stakes in the ground no matter what they say. From sunrise to the night, I make sure every